Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast, a show where we talk about anything and everything relating to what it means to be a prepared individual and a survivalist in today's day and age. I'm your host, Chris Bartigone, ZP002. Back with me on the show is Jamie Franks, my co-host. Jamie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm back from vacation.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute. You guys have not noticed because we put out shows every single Thursday on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else you get your podcasts, and the video portion a couple days later. But we set these up. We record when we have good topics to talk about. We record when there are things happening in the news. But yeah, we have not recorded here in a minute. So welcome back to the studio to record.
Yeah,
you had a good time on vacation?
Yeah, and I was about to make a comment about if I look tan, but I kind of think I always do because I'm outside all the time, whether I'm on vacation or not. But I probably picked up a few pounds because I was back on the East Coast where my family is, and like all those people do is eat. That's like we eat a big hearty breakfast every morning, and the topic of conversation is what we're doing for lunch, and then we all go to lunch, and then the topic of conversation is what's going to happen for dinner. It's like,
well, it's just the way it goes. It's just the way, especially when you're on vacation. And when you're on vacation back home where your family lives, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. But you'll be back. Hey, listen, my coffee or my breakfast is 2 cups of coffee, and I'm thinking about dinner from the moment I finish my second cup of coffee. So I'm excited to get home and cook some dinner. I am dog sitting this week, so I have an extra dog in the house, which they're probably waiting for dinner as well. But thanks for obviously jumping on, and thank you for all that are listening to this show and watching it up on the YouTube channel. If you are just listening to this show and you have not subscribed and visited our YouTube channel, please head over there and do that now. Go to YouTube and search for the ZERT YouTube channel. That is where you'll find the video portion of this. In today's show, we will be showing a clip, so it may help for context. But if you do head over there and you do start watching some of the videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the videos a like, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we drop new videos. We'll start to share a little bit more, do a little bit more when it comes to product reviews and other stuff, and start to utilize the YouTube channel as a learning platform as well as an information delivery platform. We know that there's a few people that are in this type of space, and what I mean by that is the firearms industry space, that are bringing up some potential issues with YouTube. I don't know if you've seen any of this as of late, Jamie, but YouTube has come out with more and more restrictions when it comes to the GunTubers channel, and there are a lot of people that are trying to head over to Rumble and use their platform. It has to do with as much as sharing affiliate links and whatnot. And as as a ZERT member and a ZERT instructor, one of the benefits of being a ZERT member is the affiliate links that we have with other companies like High-Vis Sights, Alpha Dog Arms, Rad Palm, Faraday Defense, Agilite, US Law Shield. All of those are companies that work with us at ZERT, and not being able to share affiliate links is a little upsetting. I have not looked into it a little bit further or any deeper than that at this point, and it just poses a potential issue. So anyway,
I used to have a pretty healthy YouTube channel that was just my channel, and it was monetized, and I wasn't getting rich off of it, but it was like I was making like $200 a month of, like what I call mailbox money.
Sure.
That was $200 a month that I was getting from my YouTube channel because of the level of subscribers that I had and monetization and everything. And then my YouTube channel got demonetized about 7 or 8 years ago now. And so like I kind of, at that point, I just kind of stopped caring about YouTube. But I do know that basically what they're doing, kind of what you're talking about, is they're continuing to like slide the goalpost further and further back, and they're deliberately misinterpreting things. And a couple of examples off the top of my head for that is like, it's been a long-standing rule on YouTube, like you can't make a YouTube video showing people how to modify a gun, because originally the example was like, I can't show you how to take your semi-automatic AK and make this little piece out of wire and turn it into a full
Right.
auto. I can't make a video of that. But now they're deliberately misinterpreting that. And now, so I'm told, if I make a video where I'm doing like a firearms reload, now they're defining that as modifying the firearm, like loading or reloading a firearm is a modification, and now they'll kill that video. And obviously, like, firearm sales via Facebook or Instagram or YouTube are, whether it's illegal or not is questionable, but that's been a thing that's been off limits for some time. But now, because I got with this there, Chris Bardagon, because I shared a really good sale that you were having at Clark Armory, and I got penalized for firearm sales because I posted a link to an outlet where somebody could go to purchase ammo. So again, it's like that deliberate deliberate misinterpretation or redefining of words. Like, I'm not selling firearms. I'm not even selling ammunition. I just uploaded a video that had a link attached to it that kicked people over to a kick-ass sale that you were having, and I got for that. So yeah, so that
Yeah, it's pretty wild. They I just watched a video on somebody doing a review on the new Smith and Wesson Shield, the Compt Shield, and I was under that same impression where you couldn't load a magazine into it, whether an empty magazine, but he loaded 3 different magazines to show the size difference of the grip. And obviously I was able to see the video and there was no issues. I have not gone back to look to see if it was taken down, but it had a fair amount of views on the video. The last video that I did, I made sure that there were no magazines in the firearm, and we showed that they were safe and clear. So, folks, that's kind of off topic, but it's just when we talk about this stuff, and we ask you to go over there and obviously give the page a like and a follow and a subscribe and hit the bell just so you can get notified when we put this stuff out there. We do have a channel over on Rumble. We have not put any videos out, but the thing of it is, when you see these people that are on YouTube with these large channels, and then you see their channel over on Rumble and it is a fraction of the size, it's because nobody wants to make the change and go create a new account and start over. It's like, how many replacements have we tried to create for Facebook, but yet everybody
I'm going to Parlor.
Right. Everybody is still on Facebook. I mean, the people that complain about Facebook on Facebook are, it's kind of just like they're ice skating uphill, to quote some Wesley Snipes from Blade. So, folks, it is what it is. We're going to continue to put out the content. We're going to continue to make podcasts, and I know that I love it, and I'm hoping that you love it just as much. You out there listening, and you, Jamie, all the same. I know we have some other videos coming up, and there's the heart, so we appreciate it. Today's topic is a story that was in the news about 2.5 weeks ago. We're going to play a clip, and we're going to play it with no sound first, just so everybody kind of can understand. And I believe that we can talk through it, and I can kind of slow it down, and then we'll talk about why we feel that this is important. If you're not familiar with the story, it was I believe the date, it was in July.
Give me 1 second. It was in Indianapolis.
Yep.
Was I have it right here.
I believe it was July 17th, right around July 17th, right around there. July 17th, July 16th.
This news story just said it was 22 days ago from today, but that doesn't help.
Well, I guess that's pretty close. So, but yeah, it was
July 16th.
July 16th. Okay. So it was July 16th. Yep. Around 8:30 at night, middle of the week, you had a situation that started with some road rage and ended with some self-defense shooting.
There's like, I would like to just show the video once, like without our commentary, because the one thing the video is only, I think, 6 or 7 seconds long, and
Right.
it kind of went viral. It was, I mean, it was all over my social media. But the entire video is like 6 to 7 seconds long. So that shows you how quickly these things unfold and how quickly you have to make a very important decision. And then I think maybe we'll go back and play it like a second or a third time, because in the first, if you just watch it one, if I like, it's that'd be an interesting like man on the street thing. Like, just show them the video one time with no option for it to be replayed again, and be like, "What'd you see?"
Right.
Because if we play it back a second or even a third time, there's like many little things, many little details that do matter,
Right.
um,
Right. And
that you may not
obvious
notice the first time you watch it. And
right.
but guess
And
what?
obviously
In real life, you only get one opportunity. Sorry.
that's true. And obviously, for those that are just listening to this, which is kind of why I set up what we're about to show, because without that
Yeah.
context, you kind of don't know what's going on. So I have toyed with the idea of showing it with sound and without sound. And so I'm going to put it up with sound, and then uh, you guys can take a look at it. Now, I will tell you that this video was a couple of days. The video that I captured was a couple of days after the incident. Since then, it has been edited, and I do not believe you see the end of what we're about to show you. So with all intents, or with all good luck on our side, we hope that this thing stays up and you guys can see it, because I think it's important. And then, like I said, we will show it a second time. We remove the sound, and we can get a little bit more detailed on what we're looking at here. So here is the clip from the road rage shooting incident in Indianapolis on July 16th, 2024. So here it goes. And that is it. As quick as it happened, that is it. Um, so for those of you that are listening, you just saw and heard, well, you just heard a man approach a vehicle after cutting him off in the street. Um, some yelling, some banging on the car, some yelling, and then 3 shots. And that was the end of that person's life, that 29-year-old person who cut this vehicle off, approached the vehicle to apparently have some words and threaten. Now, why are we talking about this, Jamie? What are we trying to what are we trying to explain before we pull the video up and start breaking it down?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in this video, but to me, the big takeaway is, for people to act this way, I think is very common. I think it's more common than it should be. And the guy whose life just ended over a 7-second bad decision, I'm sure he didn't wake up that morning and think that. I'm sure he thought, he probably had plans that night, and he probably thought he was going to be at home later. I don't know. Like, his name has been released. The shooter's name has not been released, but the victim's name was released, and I don't know if he has any wife or kids or anything like that. But I'm sure he thought he was going to be home later, and he's not going to be home later.
I've got no idea what just happened.
It's okay.
So,
We're
hold
still
on.
recording.
We are still recording, so I've got to notate the time, and then what I'll have to do is I'll have to cut the video, and we'll pick it up where you were just about to say name's been released. So
Okay.
15 minutes and 52 seconds. And what's funny is I was just about to type in the chat because it said recording for 55 seconds. It's been recording the entire time, but it just said recording. So here we
Well,
go.
you went away, and then it told me I was backstage again, and then all that reversed, and now we're back.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw my hand up, and then you can just pick up where you said that his name has been released.
So the victim's name has been released. I've not seen anything where the shooter that was defending themselves, where their name has been released, but I didn't look into the guy who got shot, even though his name's been released, to see if he had any family, wife, kids, anything like that. But maybe he did. But long story short, I'm sure he woke up that morning thinking he would be back home that night, and he's not going to be, over a very quick, and I'm going to address this later on, but what I perceive as an ego-driven bad decision that was 6 seconds long and cost him the rest of his life.
Right. Now, we just had to bring it up again, and we're going to take the volume out of it. So I want to put it up so everybody can take a look, and this way I can kind of slow it down and kind of go to what Jamie was talking about here. So, if you're watching this video now, or if you're just listening to this podcast, what we have up on the screen is the situation. So, and Jamie, you and I talked about it prior.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This situation could have ended right here. This person could have defended himself right here, because this vehicle pulled up and cut him off, and the aggressor, we'll just call it the aggressor, or
Okay.
the person shot, the aggressor, cut this vehicle off, got out of his vehicle, came around with a firearm in his hand. So for the context of what happened, like you just said, I'm sure that this person, this 29-year-old male, did not wake up and decide that he was going to do this today. Something caused this incident to take place, and angered this person so much that this was the option he thought was the best option. It was not. But the guy gets out of his vehicle. And again, now we're just going to lay the context out of what happened, and then we'll start unpacking pieces as we get to it. But for those of you who are not aware of this and did not just watch the video, the guy cuts the vehicle off, gets out of his vehicle, carrying a firearm, brandishing a firearm, down by his side.
So
walks.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
My assumption is, because very quickly, it's not for very long, but very quickly, as the guy's yelling, I can't even understand what he's yelling, but he does point back down the road, like behind where the vehicles are. So the assumption, I would say, is that something happened previous to this. The aggressor is in like a white sedan, like a black sedan, like a Honda Accord, something like that. And the guy that ends up having to defend himself is in like a lifted Chevy Silverado. So the black Honda Accord, it looks as though has pulled around the white truck and kind of cut them off at like a 45 to 60 degree angle, effectively blocking the truck in. Like really, there's nowhere the truck could go without having to crash or something like that.
Correct.
And
then, now what I just want to clarify, that he does not point down to the street until the end of the video. And unfortunately, that pointing when he lifts his hand is what causes him, is the final straw that kind of breaks the camel's back here, that causes him to lose his life. So he walks up to this vehicle with his firearm in his right hand, and then it looks like he performs a muzzle strike on the guy's door with the firearm. And again, those of you that are able to see this, you'll see that the truck is lifted, and from the driver's door, when he gets close enough, the only thing he is seeing is from the middle of his chest on up.
Yeah, the bottom of the driver's side door window, so like where the side view mirror is on the driver's side of the truck, is almost at the aggressor's neck. I mean, that's how that's how high it is. Yeah.
Right. So what happens here, and obviously I'm going to bring the video forward a little bit. This is where he is, pounding on the door, and then puts his hand he's pounding on the door with his the firearm, and then brings his hand back down below the window of the truck. And you can see in this part of the video that the firearm is clearly in his right hand.
Yep.
Now, I will tell you, the first time I watched this video, I did not see what happens next. I did not see the change of hands. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, holy shit.
So
And
I
then,
saw it, but
okay,
it didn't like that's one of the first things I immediately noticed was he's standing so close to this driver's door and kind of down where his like below his waistline, like kind of down where his crotch is, he passes the gun from his right hand to his left hand. I saw that the very first time I watched the video and it stood out to me, but it wasn't until the second or third time that I watched it that I connected the dots and realized there's no way that the driver sitting inside the truck
right,
could have seen that.
right. Now, so you bring up a good point, right? So the only thing, so that what the driver of the truck sees at first is A, he's cut off, B, an aggressive person gets out of the vehicle, walks around
With
with
a
a
gun
gun
visible in their right hand.
in his right hand,
Yep.
and then walks up, closes the distance on his truck, and starts smashing into his truck with his pistol in his hand.
Yep.
At that point, this person could have been shot. Any point actually leading up to that, this person could have been shot.
Yeah. So like we can put a pin in that for now, but yeah,
Sure.
you already
Right.
referenced it one time, but as soon as the guy gets out of his car, the black like Honda Accord looking car, and comes around the back of the vehicle with a gun visible in his hand and starts to walk towards the truck, the person in the truck who like to me, I'm just like maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sorry if by some astronomical chance the person in this video ends up listening to our podcast, but it looks like a woman's hand to me. But I don't know because the person inside the truck, their identity has not been released that I've seen. But to me, it almost looked like a woman's hand holding the gun. But the person inside the truck, they could have shot him as soon as he kind of cleared that back corner of his car, the aggressor's car. As soon as gun was visible in his hand, and now he's walking towards you with a gun,
Right.
the criteria for deadly force was met at that point, and
Right.
the person inside the truck could have shot him right at that point, and shouldn't have, and did not need to let him get all the way up where his chest is almost touching the truck.
Right. So at this point, that individual is now there. He's smashing on the vehicle. He lowers his hand below the driver of the truck's line of sight.
Yep.
And at what I would, unfortunately we'll never know, but man, to know what changed in his mind at that point, to take his firearm from his right hand, and he grabs it by the muzzle. So it's not like he just takes it and grabs the grip. Like you see him grab the firearm from a non-shooting, like he doesn't have a position to shoot that firearm at that point. He can't, he's grabbing it by the muzzle and holding it. And then he raises his hand to point at whatever area the situation started in. And that is the action that caused the driver of the white truck to then fire 3 shots and eliminate the threat.
So I have a theory about what you just said, and I think my theory is probably, there's no way to ever prove this, but I think my theory is probably pretty close to being correct. So from the driver of the truck's perspective, aggressor still has gun in right hand, has already brought it up once. Then, unknown to that driver, guy shifts gun to the left hand, but then he goes to raise his right hand again. And then the driver of the truck's perception has to be that he still has gun in hand and is now raising his gun again. And then the driver decided to fire 3 shots, like almost like a failure to stop drill,
Right.
into the guy's neck and the lower part of his face is what it looks like.
Right.
But my theory on exactly what you just said, because it is important, what changed in the guy's mind, and my read on this situation, because he's close enough, the person inside the truck can't see what he's doing with the gun, but he's so close, he's basically leaning inside the window almost. If the person inside the truck already had their gun out,
Right.
He could see that. And
And maybe that's why he decided to
that's
change.
exactly right. So
Yeah.
this goes back to like the psychology of fighting. Like there's like, for the sake of full transparency, like I haven't done martial arts in many, many years, but back when I was doing martial arts and combatives, there's like a saying that like in every fight, there's at least one person that doesn't want to be in the fight.
Right. Well,
Maybe both people don't want to be in
yeah.
the fight, but that's like an old saying, like an old rule of thumb. There's at least one person that doesn't want to be in the fight. And this goes for like a road rage incident is a perfect example. A bar fight is a perfect example because ego is highly involved here, and you can see it from this guy that ended up losing his life. Somebody steps on your shoe, your ego won't let that slide and forces you to confront the person who just accidentally stepped on your shoe. Now that person's ego has to defend
Right.
themselves, and now we escalate. And really, in the stepping on the shoe situation, neither person really wants to get into a fight over stepping on their foot, but now their egos have driven it up to that point, and now nobody wants to back down. And it's like, it's just used kind of, I mean, this is not a humorous situation, but like in the movie Superbad, when McLovin asked the cops, like, "Oh man, what's it like having a gun all day long? You have a gun right by your side all day long," and the guy says,
Right.
"Well, carrying around a gun's like having two dicks," and a lot of people view it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other side of that coin is now with CCWs becoming way more common, there's a lot more people walking around today that have actually been educated on that use of deadly force criteria. When can you use deadly force? When can you not? What are the laws? What are the limitations? Do I live in a stand my ground state? Do I not? Is my vehicle an extension of my property where I can stand my ground? Like, it wasn't that long ago that like nobody knew this kind of stuff. And now so many people in so many states have CCWs. There's now a lot of people that are armed with that information and
Right.
can actually make a decision. Because like when you look at that video, to me, what I see is the person inside the truck saw the guy get out. Okay. Got blocked in, saw guy get out, saw gun in hand, and is now like in that person's mind, they're piecing together the three legs of the little triangle.
Sure.
And as soon as that guy's head came up, really the triangle was met earlier than that, but I think that was
right.
the straw that broke the camel's back. And to that person, to the person in the truck, that last leg of the triangle fell into place, and they decided to take action, and they were right to do it.
Right.
But
well, and let me just, I want to go back and I want to touch on something that you just said. That this situation, like you pointed out, there's a lot of CCW carriers, right, or holders right now. And this is going to be a little bit weird because we just talked about it, but having a little bit of peace of mind after this is also important. And one of those pieces of mind in a situation, who knows if this guy thought about this or whatnot, but now just for full transparency, the person who was in the truck got released and it was deemed a good shoot. But having something to protect you after the shooting is just as important. Carrying a gun is fine, but if you carry a gun, you better be protected afterwards. So, as ZERT members, U.S. Law Shield is an important thing to look into in a situation like this, because immediately the thoughts that go through, if you are in this situation and you have to discharge your firearm, your next thoughts are, holy shit, I'm alive, but what's next? They want, when you carry a firearm and you get in a gun, like, you want to stay out of the morgue, out of the hospital, and out of jail. And those are, obviously the morgue is the last place, but out of jail and out of the hospital are two probably important things that you want to be making sure you're staying out of. So, you need to be cognizant of that as well. At this point, nobody was thinking that. Right? This guy, the guy who got out of his vehicle, was not thinking about the repercussion of his actions. Like you said earlier, he wasn't thinking that he was going to not come home today.
Right.
And even when he got out of his car, what was he thinking? There's so many questions, but
So like all of this ties together. And the like there's so many people now, like we just talked about, that have CCWs that actually have a good grasp on this type of information and use of deadly force and all the rest. But then there's also people that still in today's day and age know nothing. And so you still have guys like this, like the guy in the video. To me, when I see this guy acting this way with a gun, then he passes the gun off to his non-firing hand, like you said, holding it by the barrel or by the slide, not even in a way where he could use it. Uh, this is the same kind of guy that is like, oh, my neighbor's stereo is too loud. I'm going to get my gun and go over there and tell them to turn the stereo down. Well,
right,
like, if your neighbor doesn't turn the stereo down, are you going to murder them? And
right,
if the answer is no, then you don't need to take a gun over there to go tell your neighbor to turn the stereo down. But there are still people like that. And like, going back to the ego piece, like, my read on this guy is it's a different version, actually a very slightly different version of what I just said. He got pissed off because the person in the truck cut him off or was tailgating him or didn't let him over or something. And his ego was like, well, I've got a gun. I'm going to
right,
go get in this guy's face. Because I think when I see somebody acting like this, I think that their expectation is their ego tells them, I'm going to get out of my car, and this person in the truck is going to see me with a gun in my hand. And even though I have no intention of using this gun, they're going to see me with this gun in their hand.
yeah,
Then they're going to get scared. Then they're going to back down. Then they're going to apologize to me and go, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to do that. I don't want any trouble. And so their ego is itching, and that's the scratch that they need. The
it's
guy
such a
wanted the satisfaction of seeing the other guy that wronged him in some way
right,
to back down and to cower and whatever. And that led up to this whole little 6-second escalation that ended
right.
up costing the guy's life.
Yeah, and that's such a bad look,
Yeah.
as as people who carry daily, you've got to keep that in mind. You've got to keep yourself in check. And like you brought up, like, ego can't be the driving factor. You can't be that person that's like, I'm a badass now because I'm carrying a firearm, and people, you're not going to wrong me. That is just a very, very poor decision making process for that person that day. And it's unfortunate, I mean, it really is. I mean,
It is.
29-year-old, I mean, he lost his life. I think he was a husband, and I don't know if he was a new father or not, but I don't I feel bad that somebody lost their lives and somebody had to pay the ultimate price for being stupid, but you got to just be smarter than that. We, like you said, there's not much that we know about the person in the truck. But just think about it as if it is a woman and she's got a newborn in the car, and it's a woman being approached by a man screaming at them aggressively with a gun, and they've got a newborn or a baby in the car, or a young child in the car. Like, mama bear takes over and it's game over. um I do have questions about at what point did the person in the truck retrieve their firearm? Were they
Yep.
carrying appendix? Were they carrying strong side versus appendix? Obviously, there's a lot less movements. We talk about that, where you carry on your body, especially in a vehicle. Having that firearm at your strong side or 4 o'clock is not a great position. Um, did that person, as soon as they came around the vehicle and the person in the truck saw that firearm, was that firearm out pointed at the door under the door jamb where the person in the truck couldn't see, or did they see it? And that's why he made that decision to switch hands. He should have made he should have made a lot of smarter decisions, but at that point, if he saw the firearm, he should have taken a couple of steps back. Now, would that have changed anything? Who knows? But, man.
Well, so, and kind of going back to one of the things I said before, there's a lot of people that like all they know, and this, I've said this 1,000 times probably before about, kind of other things, but it sounds funny when you hear me say it, but it is the absolute truth that there are so many people that don't know anything other than what they've seen on TV.
Right.
And they expect people to act like what they saw on TV, and they expect people to react like what they saw
Oh,
on
yeah.
TV. Because to me, as somebody that I've been in a couple of fights, and I've been around aggressive alpha male type dudes before. To me, when I watch this video, like, this is not something I picked up on in the very first time I viewed a 6-second video, but watching it a few times over, the aggressor who ends up getting shot and killed, to me, his body language doesn't even look like somebody that really wants to be in a fight. He's being like boisterous. He's not actually exhibiting the signs of somebody that actually wants to get into a fight. And one of the things that you brought up is a really great point that we'll never know the answer to, is how was the person inside the truck? How were they carrying? Where were they carrying? And without knowing that question, this is still a good time to insert my opinion on that matter. Like, this is why I advocate for everybody all the time in every situation to carry your firearm on your body.
Oh,
If
yeah.
women, don't have it in your purse. Don't
Yeah.
put it in the glove compartment of the truck. Don't get one of those little magnet things where it's like underneath the dash, where it's going to fall off and you're going to accidentally pull the trigger with your big toe. Like, carry on your body. That
Right.
way you never have to fish around for your gun. You never have to find your gun. You're never going to be in Walmart and be like, oh crap, I left my gun out in the truck. Like, don't carry it in your purse. Don't put it in the glove box. Don't get one of those little magnets. Don't get, like, just carry on your person all the time, men and women. Like,
Now, right. And I agree with you. Now, before anybody comes into the comment section about, oh, that truck could have driven away, we don't know that. The only footage that I have seen of this video is from a car that's in the lane, left lane next to the truck. So the truck is in a right lane. There, I cannot tell precisely how much room is in between the car that cuts off the truck and the truck. The driver does not, I don't know if there is another lane to the right of that truck. I don't know anything other than that. So with all of that being said, if you are in your vehicle and you have the ability to leave the situation, do that before you have to then just start shooting from your vehicle, because it doesn't matter if you have US Law Shield, USCCA, or whatever. That is not going to be good if you can exit the situation and you just decide to start shooting. Not going to go well.
Yeah, vehicle gunfighting tactics rule number 1: if you're in a vehicle and somebody starts shooting at you, drive away. Like, and if possible, drive over the person that's shooting at you. But this is a good place to talk about what makes deadly force, because somebody that might make the argument in this exact situation, a scenario, that the person in the truck could have driven away. So I will say, you can't tell this for sure, but to me in the video, it looks like it's maybe a 2-lane, like a 4-lane road with 2 lanes going in each direction, and then maybe a turn lane in the middle. And to me, it looks like the truck is in the far right lane, and it looks like the white Honda Accord, I keep saying white, that looks like the black Honda Accord looking vehicle came up in the left lane and pulled in front of them and cut them off. To me, it looks like for the white truck to drive away, they would have to either crash into the black car,
Yep,
or drive up on the sidewalk and still partially crash into the black car. And then driving up onto the sidewalk, you're putting other people's lives in danger. You're in danger of crashing into a light pole or a parking meter or
right.
whatever like that. And if this was a traffic stop and a police officer pulled in front of the car to stop them, and the police officer got out of the car, and that white truck in the exact same situation attempted to either crash through the police car or drive up on the sidewalk to drive away, that meets the deadly force criteria for the police officer to engage a fleeing suspect, because doing that type of action with a big heavy truck like that, that is also that warrants the use of deadly force, because now
Right.
that
Now,
truck is now a deadly weapon. And go ahead.
well, let me. Do you think in that situation, the truck? Let's just say the person cuts him off. That person, and now in the truck, runs into that vehicle. Does that give the aggressor, the initial aggressor, the right to shoot into that vehicle?
No, because at that point it's just a traffic accident. But what I'm saying is let's backtrack and erase what I said about this being a police traffic stop.
Okay.
If we go back to the situation as it is, the person that's in the truck, to me, it looks like their only option is to drive into a situation where they are possibly harming themselves or somebody else. So it's like, because I don't want to get into a fight with this guy, I'm going to pull up onto the sidewalk and crash into that car and possibly run somebody over. So to me, it looks like that person is pretty well pinned in, or either they have to put themselves into a situation where they're causing injury or bodily harm to some other third party or themselves. And so all these things together, like, so I referenced the deadly force triangle earlier. So just to backfill that, in case anybody's listening and doesn't know what I'm talking about, the three criteria, generally speaking, that have to be met for you to use deadly force, like if you're concealed carrying a firearm, to be able to use that firearm to shoot somebody. And by the way, even if you draw your firearm and shoot somebody in the foot or in the leg, that is still the use of deadly force.
Right.
Shooting some, telling, like, go into court and be like, well, I only meant to shoot him in the knee. That you have still used deadly force when you've used a firearm. So the three things that must be met in order for you to draw your firearm and use it: the aggressor has to show capability, opportunity, and intent to cause you serious bodily harm or death. If all three of those things are met, and it has to be all three, it can't be 2 out of 3. If the aggressor is showing opportunity, capability, and intent,
Right.
you are then legally, entitled to use deadly force to protect your life or the life of others. So let's break those down. Opportunity. This guy gave himself the opportunity. He created opportunity to cause the person in the truck serious bodily harm or death when he blocked them in. He removed their option for leaving.
Right.
So now that created the opportunity, because now he has them blocked in and sealed in, and now they're a stationary target. So he blocked them in. The capability to cause serious bodily harm or death is obvious. It's what?
Well, the firearm.
The fact that he had a gun in his hand.
Yeah.
That is your capability.
Exactly.
I am now capable of killing you because you can see this gun that's in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Intent is always the tricky one. Intent is always the hardest one to prove. But the fact that he deliberately got out of the car with the gun already in his hand and was approaching the person in the truck, that shows that a reasonable person would
You're
perceive that
right.
he intended to do me harm. Why else would you get out of a car with a gun in your hand and walk towards me? So capability, opportunity, and intent were all very clear in this case.
Now, just to follow up on that, and this is some of the things that an attorney has said, and basically, it's the amount of defense depends on the level of the threat.
Correct.
So this attorney's not connected to that case, but said, and here's the key part, and this is what we don't know, and this is why the case isn't officially closed yet, and they are still asking for information, but they're basically saying as long as the shooter wasn't the initial aggressor, that he would not have had any duty to retreat. So they are saying he. So I guess they did identify that it is
Okay.
a male,
I
but
didn't
he
see
would
that.
not have any duty to retreat from the confrontation, with the few exceptions. And I think that's the exception, is if they determine that there was some kind of unlawful behavior by the survivor prior to the situation, that it would negate the self-defense claim. Now,
I don't think
I
that
have
holds water, and I'll tell you why. I'll
well,
let you finish.
well, right, but where I have an issue with that is if the guy cut him off a quarter of a mile back, it does not constitute what the person did.
I'm so
So
glad
I'm
you
not
said that. So whatever happened prior to this 6-second video is completely irrelevant. I'm glad you
right.
pointed that out.
Short of maybe, I mean, if that person in the truck was, waving his, but again, it's not accurate because you have the ability to drive away.
Right. That's
29-year-old aggressor chose to go engage that thing one
100%.
more time. So I don't see any situation where the prosecutor files charges against the survivor, and at the and then what you look at is, I hate to say this, but this is a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun. I mean, this is why we carry, this is why we train, and this is why we practice this form of self-defense.
Yeah. I think this is really tragic because, like,
Yes.
I don't think the 29-year-old guy that lost his life, I don't think he was a serial
No.
killer that just got
No.
snuffed out by accident. Like, I really do think he's some guy that had a huge ego and a gun that he viewed as having a second dick. And my read on this is he's the type of guy that will go ask his neighbor to turn the stereo down with the gun in his hand. But
So bad.
just to, like, one of the things you said, so even if further back down the road, the person in the truck, somebody cut somebody off and the person in the truck was brandishing a firearm, you hit the nail right on the head, that even if that were true, this guy is still the one that made the choice to deliberately pull in front of this other person, stop them, get out of the truck, and then escalate the situation. So I don't even think that argument would hold water or negate the person's use of deadly force as the situation unfolded. And an example here that we have in California, which, just for the record for everybody, I don't really agree with this. But here in California, we don't really have stand your ground laws. And one of the things that has been used to prosecute law-abiding citizens who have used deadly force with a firearm to defend their home, this has been used against those people in the prosecution. One of the examples is a person here in San Diego lived in a home that had a detached one-car garage in the backyard, and he said that he either saw or heard somebody break into the garage, and so he grabbed his gun and went to the back door. And as he opened the back door, the person who had broken into the garage was coming out of the garage, and they were now face to face. And the person coming out of the garage had a weapon. And so he raised his gun and shot the person that had broke into his garage. And the guy got prosecuted. And they said, because California doesn't have stand your ground or defend the castle doctrine laws, the guy who fired a weapon and killed the other guy that just broke into his garage, he can't argue that he felt that his life was in danger because he consciously removed a physical barrier between him and the prowler. So you can't voluntarily open a door and step outside and then try to make the argument that you felt like your life was in danger. And that's kind of what this would have been if the person in the truck was brandishing a pistol a mile back, and now you voluntarily get out of your car to confront them. Now you have made the choice of removing all these barriers and confronting this person with a firearm, and then you get murked. But yeah, in California, that's like, if I know in a lot of states, in North Carolina, like where I got my CCW, they told us in the CCW class in North Carolina that if a person is like actively like banging on your door or kicking your door, showing that intent piece that they are intent on forcefully entering your home, you don't have to wait for that to happen to shoot them. You could shoot them through the door, and it would be legal. But in California views that as like there's a physical barrier protecting you from this assailant, and if you voluntarily remove that barrier, you can no longer claim that it was self-defense.
Yeah, I think something to take away from all of this, folks, is it's great that you go and you take the class and you get your permit and you go to the range, and then you take it a step further and you get training from somebody out there, like one of the ZERT instructors that we have or one of the other instructors in your area. And that's great and all, but The other thing you need to do is understand the laws in the state that you live in. Understand what you have to do, what you can't not or cannot do. Like Jamie's talking about right here, like I think that's what you're calling is you have duty to retreat versus stand your ground, where
Yep.
stand your ground, somebody breaks into your house, it's game on, and you can eliminate the threat as long as you feel threatened.
I've heard somebody illustrate it in California in this way. I heard a lawyer illustrate it this way. If you're sitting in your living room watching Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, and two men walk through your front door, and they don't without a weapon in their hand, they can walk into your front door, unplug your TV while you're watching it, and carry it out, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Duty to retreat is a legal principle that stipulates individuals must attempt to withdraw or escape from a threatening situation before resorting to the use of force, especially deadly force. So that's important. The use of force. So that's up to deadly force. So baseball bat, uh, beating somebody, obviously not to the point where you're using a gun or a knife, but anything like that. And, you can find a lot about those types of situations, like what state your state is considered by checking. I mean, just you can Google that and you can find out. There are a lot of them out there, and it's not awesome. But knowing that information, being armed with that information will help you make the right decision if you find yourself in this situation. So if you go out there, you get your firearm, you get your training, make sure you understand the law. You can do that by either looking it up. You could probably go to US Law Shield and get information about what state or what your state is considering or considered duty to retreat. So make sure you do that. One of the things that I just want to touch on what you said about that detached garage, that person went, instead of calling the police to say, hey, I think somebody broke into my vehicle, that person left the house, which was detached from the garage, to then go into the garage. It's unfortunate that happened, and it's sad to say, but that person was doomed from the moment they stepped out of their house if they were going to do that. If they chose not to shoot, or again, you didn't say what kind of weapon it was. Was there any information what kind of weapon that person had?
I believe it was a handgun, but
Okay.
I've read the full article on the case. But I believe it was a handgun. Oh,
No,
you're talking about you're talking about the person the
person that broke
prowler
in
that got shot.
Correct.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's the other thing. Again, if that person walked out and they had a firearm, I'm assuming that they did not, because I believe an argument could be made at that point. Then it doesn't matter if you remove the barrier, you still feared for your life because that person now had a firearm, and A, they broke into your house, and B, now they have a firearm. So, but if you're saying that this person was prosecuted, then it doesn't sound like it went that way. So,
yeah, and one of the other to touch back on something you alluded to earlier that is important to remember for anybody that's carrying, or that anybody that's that has a gun for home defense like that. I ask people a lot of times, hey, I want to buy a gun. What should I get? And they ask me that, and I tell them, well, what do you want? What do you want the gun for? And 9 times out of 10, the answer comes back for home defense. And then I retort with, well, how many times have you ever had to defend your home with a gun? But if you're a person that conceal carries, or a person that tells yourself that you have a gun that you're going to use for home defense, one of the things you talked about before, and you've alluded to it several times during this, is the shooter in the white truck that defended themselves.
Yep.
They are still under investigation. The case is not closed.
Correct.
They did get taken down to the police station and questioned and all that kind of stuff. So every state's a little bit different, but I would almost go so far as to say that there's probably no circumstance where you're going to take somebody's life, even if you were 100% in the right and you were 100% legal. There's virtually no chance that you're just going to get to go on with your day, that the cops are just going to go, okay, thanks, you're free to go.
Yes, you're talking about at this,
yeah,
at the time of the incident. Yes, you're definitely you're definitely going to the police department.
yep.
The question is, are you going in handcuffs, or are they asking you to follow with your vehicle? And I think with understanding some of the things that we just touched on will help you determine that. If you know you are, well, I don't even know if you can always know that you're in the right to do something, but I mean, if you feel like your life is in danger and your life is threatened, then you've got a pretty good chance that you know that self-defense is justified. But you're right, the person was released, and I'd be curious if they left the fire department, or the police department with their firearm.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking the same thing. That would be interesting to know as well. And I hate to say this, but this is all, like, just today I advised one of my friends that just got a new gun, like, don't modify your gun too much. Like, if you want to put better sights on it or something like that, but be careful about your firearms modification, because if you do have to use it and the police keep it, that's something to think about. That's something
right,
that could also be used against you afterwards.
right. Anything. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
But yeah. So, and the other thing, kind of going back to my point earlier, that like a lot of people don't know anything other than what they've seen on TV. In one of the kind of aftermath news articles about this situation, they did illustrate the point that the person in the white truck never got out of the vehicle. They stayed on scene. They waited for the police to arrive. They never got out of the vehicle. And that's another important point to make, because the aggressor got out of his vehicle. Again, I think was ego driven and all that. And he probably pictured some version in his mind where he was going to get out of his vehicle and the other person was going to get out of the truck, and they were going to go, "What's up with you, bro? What's your problem?" "I don't know, bro. What's your problem?" "Well, what's your problem?" And
right,
like, it's the reality, especially now that there's people concealed carrying that actually have some education on this and actually know what they're doing. Like, there's a real steep downside to acting like a jackass now, because I think this guy just thought he was gonna get out of his car and throw his ego around a little bit, and the other person was going to back down, and then they were both going to get back in their cars, and that's not what happened. And you hear this time and time again, where like somebody runs into Chuck Liddell at a bar and they bump into him or shoulder check him, and they're like, "Oh, he was the nicest guy." Yeah. Because Chuck Liddell could unscrew your head from your body and use it as a hand puppet. Like,
right.
So Chuck Liddell doesn't have to act like a douchebag. Like, that's another important takeaway. Like, if you are, or if you think you're such a badass, then you probably don't need to act like this guy did in the video. You probably can just be like calm and even. And if somebody steps on your shoe, you can probably let it slide. And if somebody cuts you off in traffic, you could probably just let it slide if you're such a badass. But that's all I got.
Okay. So what I want to do is just, as we wrap today's episode up, I want to give you a little bit of information, and this is information that you can find on websites. And if you just type in, obviously, the word reciprocity, you'll get a couple of websites where you can find this. So just some facts about Indiana. There's a state population of 6.7 million, and 1.12 million people have been issued a license. Or
say that again.
What?
So say those numbers again.
6.7 million is the state population.
And
1.1 million concealed carriers.
That's 1/6 of the population has a CCW. Like, that's
16.7% license percentage. Their permit is honored in 48 states. Minimum age to carry is 18. They've got some USCCA instructors, but here are the other pieces of importance. Indiana is a shall issue permitless carry state with licensing being issued to the Indiana by the Indiana State Police. There is no license required to purchase a firearm, and firearms do not need to be registered. Only Indiana residents or residents of neighboring states who are at least 18 years old can buy long guns. To buy a handgun, you must be 21 years of age and a resident of Indiana. Open carry and concealed carry are legal without a permit. Individuals 18 years or older are not prohibited from carrying or possessing a handgun. I'm sorry, individuals 18 years old or older not prohibited from carrying or possessing a handgun are no longer required to obtain a license to carry a handgun as of July 1st, 2022. Indiana is a castle doctrine state and has a stand your ground law. There is no duty to retreat if deadly force is necessary to prevent serious bodily injury to the person or a third person or the commission of a forcible felony. So just some pieces coming out about obviously that state.
Well, so, and depending on where our listeners are listening from, like, that means, like, at the very least in Indiana, 1 out of 6 people is highly probable carrying a gun in the state of Indiana. 1 out of 6. So if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, one of them probably has a gun. So if you go to, like, that's actually,
yeah,
I did not expect that. But, like, if this guy lived in a state where 1 out of 6 people is carrying a gun, like, he definitely needed to chickadee check himself. But
yeah. So and we'll post the links. I'll post a link to this website where you can find this information, and it is USCCA. What I will tell you is you can get some good information there, but in the situation where you are, if you find yourself in this situation and you call USCCA after the fact, you are not talking to a lawyer right off the bat. You are talking to somebody else who is not covered under attorney-client privilege. US Law Shield, the moment you place that phone call, you're talking to a lawyer right off the bat. So anything you say is covered under that attorney-client privilege. That is the key reason why ZERT works with US Law Shield for its members, and we make sure that all members are aware of that. Just something to know. This is a tragic situation, folks. There's no way around it. A 29-year-old individual lost their life because they made a bad decision. As you pointed out, Jamie, they didn't wake up thinking that they were going to make that bad decision, but things happened that day to lead them down that path. As concealed carriers of a firearm, it is our duty to be better than that, to be smarter than that, to be calmer than that, until the situation escalates to the point where you can no longer do that and come out alive, or your friends and family that are with you. So be smart with that. And, you know, as we wrap this up, I obviously just want to say thank you for all of you that are listening today. Be safe out there. And until next time, Jamie.
Hey, Chris just said it. Be smart. It's easy to be hard, and it's hard to be smart. And this guy just found out the hard way that he should have been smart instead of trying to be hard.
It is.
So
it is unfortunate, but it's true.
When I say that at the end of every show, like, this is obviously an extreme example, but this is a perfect example. The guy just got out of his car trying to act hard when he should have just been smart, and just kept on driving on down the road. But
all right. Okay, guys. Well, until next time, you guys stay safe. ZP002.